welcome to round 7. I was about to say the last round, almost the last round for Tier 1. We're here with Phoenix. I'm honestly kind of losing track of my words. I apologize for that. But we are at Jeddah for the race tonight. We will be having clear skies throughout the whole race, which will be nice to have. It is Jeddah. It is a fun track. I know a lot of drivers have said that they enjoy it. The curves and the twists and the turns are a lot of fun. We've already got drivers. You can probably hear the audio for that. Drivers are already going out for their qualifying, so I will get on with this as quickly as possible. I'd like to remind you all, we are affiliated with Rogue Energy. Use code PHX at checkout for 10% off of your order. Now, let's get the game capture up. Hopefully it recognizes the game. It does. There we go. We are at qualifying. Unfortunately, we only have 8 drivers out on the track tonight. But it is still going to be a feisty battle. Shanae may have already won the Drivers' Championship last week at Portugal. However, there are still the constructors on the line, I believe. Unfortunately, the standings haven't been updated in a couple of rounds, so we'll have to rely on our maths, which is probably not the best thing to do, but we'll have to do it anyways. But for today, for the stream, for the race, I'm joined by Joe again. Thank you. Welcome, Joe. Hope you don't fall asleep. And Nadeem, who's not even in his usual spot. He's on his phone for the race.
Hello. I'm here to just be here and talk to these boys and watch the race from the stream, but I'll be here and I'll talk a bit. And hi.
And hi. Hi indeed. We have who to come towards the last hairpin. We've got Queen's Up, Red Bull driver. Unfortunately, we have many individual teams, but no pairings on the track today. So everyone will be fighting for their own races and not have to worry about possible double stacking when they go for their pits now, as which Queen's Up going through the first sector is a very careful first few corners. You can climb the curbs, unlike 21 last year, and the damage won't be so horrible on the under barge boards of your car. Now into the mids of Sector 2, into the Sector 3. Queen's Up going very wide, fortunately keeping his track valid, and kept it going out of the wall as well, with a 32.6. That is the benchmark now for the drivers to beat in the first sector. Now going through the first hairpin as close to the wall as possible, following the racing line for the fastest speed possible through that corner. Now into the first chicane, very tight right left-hander. You can mount the curbs a lot more than 21 last year, and your car is a lot heavier, so you can rely on your car to stick to the ground. Now through the second DRS straight, one of 3 DRS straights on this circuit with a 1:01, so that's about 32nd in the second sector now for the benchmark. Now into the final straight of the lap, round towards the final hairpin. We've seen plenty of drivers already play DRS chicken, both in our Tier 2 and Tier 3 races, but also in real life when we watched Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc lock up towards the DRS line to fight for who's going to get DRS. Now across the line, the first benchmark time across the board is a 1:29.1 set by the Red Bull. Next across the line will be Zoltz, I believe. I think Zoltz, though, unfortunately has lost his front wing, so he found himself in the barrier, and this will definitely be a lap that will not be set for the timing screens. Behind him, I believe that is Landshark as well. Landshark is on a slow lap, currently through the final hairpin at 1:50 now, so crossing the line possibly at 2 minutes almost, I think, potentially. Yeah, he's going to go for the pits next, coming through Sector 2 along the second DRS line. Kudos, the Ferrari driver. He's been the only Ferrari driver so far setting a purple middle sector now, beating Queen's Up by about a couple tenths there, I believe. And being the only Ferrari driver for this season so far, the second half of the season so far, unfortunately, but he has kept it going strong. Currently 4th or 5th, if I remember correctly, in the Constructors' Championship. Still basically carrying the team on his back, so still quite impressive for the Ferrari driver. Now to the line, he will be setting a 1:30.09 tenths off of the pace from Queen's Up, But there's still plenty of time. There's a yellow flag for a Ferrari. No, not Ferrari. For the Red Bull, sorry. Queen's up. I think Queen's Up's probably in low fuel mode, and the AlphaTauri of SMH had a bit of an incident coming out of the chicane, I think. No, he was trying to line himself up for a good pace down the main straight. I know for myself, I try and go for the widest line possible into that hairpin, try and get as much breathing room, much running room for the car to try and get those revs up as high as possible and into the 8th gear as quick as possible. Now going through the middle of the first sector into the 6th gear corners, keeping his car very stable. Unfortunately, within the track limits, Queen's Up found himself wide going through the middle part of those corners. Now into the first hairpin of this circuit into the 2nd sector. There is a yellow flag ahead for Kudos. I think Kudos might find himself in low fuel mode as well. A lot of drivers running as little fuel as possible. Of course, the less fuel you have going around this track, the more pace you'll have, as Sinead puts in the fastest lap by 3/10 improvement, a 1:28.8. Now SMH going through towards the end of the 2nd sector, one of the DRS straights, across the line with a purple middle sector. Now going down the last DRS straight here at Saudi Arabia with the Ferrari just ahead. Hopefully the Ferrari can get out the way in time for the Alfa Romeo driver now coming towards the braking zone all the way down to about 2nd or 3rd gear before we have to turn the car, put it down and to the line. DRS will be wide open now. Close to the wall and across the line, he sets a 1:29.4. A very good lap indeed. 3/10 off the pace for the front row. Currently 1.2 seconds, off of Sinead's time. As he now on his cooldown lap. Who else do we have out? We've got Landshark coming through the first hairpin on his out lap. Landshark, the only Williams driver on the grid today, and it'll be interesting to see, can we have a change up in the order? Will Sinead have someone beat him at this track? As I think I've mentioned before, other drivers have spoken about their love and their enjoyment for driving around this track. It is, as I like to describe it, as it is like a dance. Once you get to the rhythm of it, you know the flow and you can get through it really easily. That's definitely not the quote I used. I used far better words, but I already forgot my quotes. Oh well, moving on. But no, it is a track that a lot of drivers have expressed their love for, and it is a lot of fun to fight other people with it, on it. As Landshark prepares himself around the hairpin now, going to try and take the longest line possible to the start line, get into the highest gear possible, revving as high as you can to the line now, and into the first braking zone. We will go with Landshark for his hot lap. Only 6 drivers today, Cthulhu. Yeah, quite unfortunate turnout for Jeddah. I think we had 7 or 8 drivers accept the race. Unfortunately, a couple of them couldn't make it. Aiden is currently booting his PC up from a blue screen issue he had the other night. So we should have 7 drivers on the grid today. Time for tea. Alright, Sinead, you're that impressed with that lap, you think you can go for a cup of tea. You're not, fair enough. Let's see what the other drivers can do as Landshark now goes through into the into the first hairpin of the track now. Opting to go for a much narrower line through the hairpin. Now coming up towards the first chicane. Gotta really go close to the wall there. Try and get the best time possible. The curbs aren't as deadly as last year's game, so the cars are a lot more reliant and a lot more stable when you try and drive over them. Now into the second chicane after the DRS straight. As close to the wall on the left side, to the right, as wide as you can, setting yourself up nicely for the last DRS straight at Saudi Arabia now towards the last hairpin of the circuit. You do have a second helping of DRS after this, with a DRS detection zone right at the end of that DRS straight now towards the line. Going for quite a wide line to the line. A 1:32.4, potentially could be going for a back-to-back hot lap. We'll have to see now. Going into the first line, does go a little bit wide into the first corner, but hits the apex perfectly onto the second. I think potentially, as unfortunately Zoltz has left the session, if we try and get him back in, he does manage to. He does appear to be going for a second hot lap back to back. He does seem to have plenty of VRS now going through the 6th gear corners. Okay, for a second there I thought he was in low fuel mode. Fortunately, he's not. But he is 4 tenths down on a previous time. Let's see who else. We've got Kudos going for a hot lap now, I do believe. Yeah, he is. He does have a full battery of ERS. We'll have to see what he can do. Can the Ferrari find himself up on the front row of the grid for tomorrow? I keep saying for tomorrow. For the race, not for tomorrow. Or will he find himself still on the second row now, going through the middle part of the first sector now, managing to keep his car within the limits. This track does allow you to go a little bit on the curbs to be within the limits of the circuit. He finds himself now 3 tenths up on his previous best. 3 tenths already. Finds himself, in fact, 3 tenths away from SMH's time. So potential for a third place finish, possibly second. We'll have to see now going through the second sector. He's gone through the first chicane very well, down the second DRS straight, keeping us close to the wall. Across the second sector, he's 6 tenths up on his previous time, into the third chicane of the track. Beautifully done, sticking as close to the wall as possible. DRS again wide open. This is the third helping of DRS on this track now, into the last hairpin of the circuit, keeping it as close to the wall. Third gear for the best minimum speed into the corner and exit. Now across the line for DRS to the finish line. That is a 1:29.1, a very outstanding, yeah, I can't fit out the words now. An outstanding lap by the Ferrari driver, putting himself up into second place, improving and beating the Red Bull driver on the second row of the grid by 8/1000 of a second. So really good lap by the Ferrari driver there. Definitely someone to keep an eye on in the future. We do have, I think, Aiden has managed to connect. Hopefully he does. He should be given a car very soon. So the AlphaTauris will be the only team, and team there is background noise. He'll be the only team to have his teammate on the track. Joe, did we manage to get Aiden in?
Yeah, joined.
He did join, yeah. Seems like his car's just decided not to spawn in yet. Did Zoltz manage to join back as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
But wasn't Farm in here on briefing? Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Zoltz was here
maybe
for
maybe
briefing, and so
Stiglitz.
far there's been no message to say that he's had an issue.
No, I think he's launched VR mode for some reason. He's in
Yeah, I'll
VR
check.
right
I'll
now.
check.
So,
I'll check
well,
really
Aiden
quickly
isn't.
if he has any problems.
Yeah, Aiden has a message. Zolt's just randomly left.
There we
Maybe
go,
there's an
Zoltz is
issue
now out
with
the
restarting
pits.
the game.
And there's Aiden, and then we have
Oh, there you go.
Wolf as well. Wolf being a race engineer for Aiden as well, so actually it's been a while since we had a race engineer join. Fortunately, we have low numbers, so they can join the game. However, with a rulebook update, it will be changed for next season to allow for more race engineers. I have to say I'm quite surprised by the number of drivers we've had sign up recently in this past season who have decided to say, you know, can I invite my race engineer to join us? So hopefully, you know, we'll come to a point where we'll be in a race and almost every driver on the grid will have their own race engineer, or every team will have a race engineer, which would be very interesting to have. And see, as Landshark now starts his second... Does he start his second? No, he doesn't start his second lap, but it just changed from outlap to on a lap.
Landshark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Before he's even started a lap. But I think he's now going for a lap. Thank you, game, for bugging the hell out of that. Now, across the line, let's see, what can the Williams driver do? Can he improve and find himself up onto the second row of the grid? Or can he improve even further and be on the front row for the race after qualifying? And 3.5 minutes left in the session. I forgot to open my track map after qualifying. Into the 6th gear corners, he managed to keep his car very well within the boundaries. Unfortunately, as I say that though, his car steps out of line slightly. Out of line slightly. Apologies. Unfortunately, invalidating his lap now.
There goes Zoltz again.
Yeah, it's very odd for the connection issues. It's definitely something EA needs to solve.
I don't think it's even a connection issue. I think his game's crashing. He
Hmm.
keeps going. He keeps going offline on Steam and then coming back on.
Be interesting. Let's have a look at Aiden. Aiden now finally joining the session, but unfortunately joining with 2 minutes left. So his one hot lap will be his one and only flying lap. So now to the line, he goes for a very tight line to start his hot lap. But I guess perhaps that's how he's practiced it. He's going to stick with where the racing line suggests. Now into the first corner. Unfortunately, already starting that hot lap horrendously. Finds
Doesn't have
himself
time to have a look though.
invalidating already. He does have enough time to get to the line, but those tyres will be worn, and does he have enough fuel? As I mentioned previously, drivers will try and take the least amount of fuel to get the best possible time available on the track, so their theoretical best with minimal fuel. So now it's a matter of, does he have enough fuel? If he doesn't, he still will be in a position to fight for certain for a race victory, but it'll definitely be a lot harder as he'll have to climb 7 positions. What else we have? We've got Kudos out on the track now. Apparently all of them are on a hot lap, which is definitely not the case, as he's 2.5 minutes down. So the game is clearly just struggling for some reason. Queen's up. I think already crossed the line, unfortunately has invalidated his lap, so he will remain in 3rd place for the time being. We've got Landshot going around for a lap. He's got himself 1/10 slower than his previous best. Let's see, Kudos crisscrossing the line. Now on a hot lap. So I guess we've got 2 people to switch to. We've got Landshark, who's also now 1/10, still 1/10 down on his previous best time. And Kudos, who's on a hot lap going through the first sector now into the twists and turns before the 6th gear corners. Finds himself going through, keeping his car very stable, very well. I was about to say looked after, very well handled. As unfortunately now coming out of those corners again, there is another driver to invalidate his lap. Landshark, I think, is the only driver on track to be able to cross the line in time. Potentially improves by 6/10. Unfortunately, does not find himself gaining any more positions. SMH is in fact also on a hot lap, so I'm wrong there. He's got his current 3/10, 4/10 improvement as he spins coming out of one of the chicanes. Fortunately, keeping it out of the wall, but that is it. That is his final lap. SMH will finish qualifying in 4th place with a 1:29.4. Very unfortunate to see. Understandably so, he is retired from the race, accepting that position. Kudos will not have enough time. Qualifying is over, so now that is it. Shanae, I hope your tea time was wonderful, because you have continued to secure a pole position in qualifying and walk away with it with no challenge to it. Kudos. Very good lap by the Ferrari driver, puts himself up on the front row of the grid in 2nd place with a 1:28.9. Though, I have to say, I was expecting another sub 1:28 lap in Tier 1, but we were not given that. We were given one driver with a sub 1:28. So it'll be interesting to see what will we see in the race. I think Aiden is Aiden on a hot lap?
Yeah,
Oh
he
no,
is. But is he also like
I think Aiden's on a
lagging
hot
out a
lap.
little
He
bit?
managed to cross the line just in time, but unfortunately he's going to cross the line at 1:55, 1:34, sorry. So he managed to take the position from his teammate, who unfortunately was having game troubles. He does
Interesting
seem to be
quality.
lagging a little bit though, on my
Yeah, I've
end.
noticed that. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
bouncing around.
yeah.
So
But I think
hopefully that won't be
yeah,
too much of a problem for the other drivers. Sorry, go on,
Uh,
Nadim.
I think it's been rather quite qualifying. I think we definitely have some interesting positions with Kudos and Queens up only being separated by 8 milliseconds. So it's obviously Shanae, we all know his dominance, but I'm quite eager to see in the race what's going to happen for the podium positions because we do have MSOL who did not set a lap, but I think he can maybe be there with them. And yeah, let's see what happens.
Now, with qualifying over, I can take a moment to get my track map open. And we can go in for the race. In fact, okay, Sinead was on the mediums.
Oh no!
What was that?
Oh, that.
That was one hell of a lap by the Alpine driver. Understandably, it's tea time. What? Okay. Can we?
Okay.
I think it's time we create a new tier called the Sinead tier. That is just unbelievable. I don't know how we never noticed that. Then again, we didn't have a. Well, we didn't do a drive
Is that
along
class
with
for
him.
sandbagging?
No.
Yeah, he put himself on the wrong tyre, but
He's on the right tyre set for the conditions that we're racing in. So according to the rules, he has followed it really well. But for mediums, and to have it uncontested by other drivers on softs, calm down, Sinead. Give these people a chance. Okay.
So we could have seen a sub 138 lap if he was on softs.
Oh, 100%. Sinead enters. Unfortunately, if he did do that, that'd be him gone. But yeah, I think Sinead. Sorry, Nadim. I think Sinead. If he went on inters, he'd probably still win the race. Let's be honest. Go on, Nadim.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep. A little echoey, but we can hear you.
Better? Can you like hear noises in the background?
Only when you speak.
Yeah, I think it's because of I'm in a different room, so there's an echo. I'm hoping it's not a big problem.
That's fine.
Alright.
Right, there we go. We've got different strategies on our screen, unlike the medium, hards it decided to give us. So we've got two hard runners. We've got SMH on the hard compound tyres and Sinead, no surprise, Sinead on the hard compound tyres as well. Let's put this over to position change, and that is it. Now, as we see the drivers warm up the tyres, fire them up for the race. I suspect all drivers will be going for that one stop. It'll be mediums to hards or hards to mediums. I would say one is better than the other, but in tier 2, I was proven wrong. It worked for some, it didn't work for some. Hell, even a one stop from hards to softs worked for a driver, so you know, I have no predictions for what strategies would work and which will come out on top. This is now literally down to who can manage their tyres on a track that really murders your tyres.
That is really true, Darkness. I do agree with you on that one. I think the hard soft is a possibility. We saw that with Dante, but at the end you did see he lost a really lot of time. Those tyres really didn't work that well. But then you have you have a driver of Sinead's caliber. You think he's gonna be able to do that, and he's on the hard. So definitely interesting play with this strategy.
Indeed. Now, going through the final hairpin, are we going to see some drivers angle the car? Of course, in 22, you have the option, or you have the ability, as there is a spin at the back of Queen's Up. You do have the option in 22 to choose how you line up your car on the grid. You can choose to angle towards your opponents to your left or right, as Sinead has a beautiful donut for us to warm up his tyres. You can angle your car inwards to try and attack the driver on the inside or the outside, attack it outwards, or just go for the standard straight line. We will have to see, as we have the two AlphaTauris now finishing off the lineup. Feel free to open a suggestion thread if you wish, Trexie, as well, as we now have the starting lights. Let's go on board with Sinead. In fact, for the start of the race, lights are out, and away we go. Very good start for Sinead. Doesn't look like the Ferrari got a good exit, though. He does find himself defending quite well to the Red Bull. But now into the first corner. There goes Kudos, trying to go around the outside, but Queen's Up finds himself now up a position into second place. Ferrari down to the third. SMH remaining in the same position, and the two Aston Martins are promoted up into 5th and 6th. But I think just behind them, it looks like a very close battle between them all into that second sector. Definitely something happened, though, for the AlphaTauri already to be 2.5 seconds behind now. Sinead going into the next straight towards the the final corner. Red Bull hairpin. Sorry, hairpin. So Red Bull looks down the inside trying to make for a move, but unfortunately could not get the pace or the grip out of the corner to make the move worth it, or stick it, sorry. Now into the first chicane, Shanae continues to lead the race, Queen's up just behind, with Kudos and SMH all within a second of each other with 2.5 seconds and splitting the two drivers as Zoltz. Unfortunately, Aiden has had an incident and has found himself now backwards on track. Landshark 2.5 seconds behind Zoltz. Zoltz 2 seconds and closing his gap slowly to the car ahead of him. Of course, SMH finds himself in the hard compound tyres. So right now, in these opening laps of the race, Zoltz will be able to cut that time down with that tyre advantage as Queen's Up looks for another move on Shanae. Unfortunately, Shanae managed to defend really well down the inside, now across the line to finish the first lap of the race. Queen's Up looking to move around the outside. Could he potentially go for the move into the first corner? We'll have to see as we now approach the braking zone. He does go late on the brakes. Fortunately, Shanae does park his car beautifully. There is a contact between the two drivers. Shanae going slightly wide, Queen's Up as well. SMH, pardon me, now also finds himself in the midst of that battle. Queen's Up fortunately ghosting, so no massive collision between all of them. And now SMH finds himself up into two positions. I'm pretty certain that was a collision between the two drivers there of SMH and Queen's Up. A very unfortunate incident to see, and I do imagine we'll have a report on that very soon. Kudos going very wide coming out of that corner there. Shanae setting a new fastest lap again, fastest sector, sorry, again. Now SMH going very wide into the corner. We've got Queen's Up right on the gearbox of that Alfa Romeo driver. DRS is not enabled still. It will not be enabled to the end of this lap. So we'll have to see, is the Red Bull driver going to be able to get ahead well before the DRS opens, or will he get through? As Shanae, what's happened to Shanae? Shanae's gone really slowly around that track. Has he got damage? He might have damage to his car. I can't quite tell.
I don't think so.
He's going incredibly slow, but I think he might have damage. He might have possibly punctured his car somehow. And now Shanae finds himself in 6th place. Now with a change in order, SMH finds himself in 1st place. Queen's Up in 2nd. Kudos up into 3rd. Shanae, crucially, and for some reason or another, finds himself down into 6th. I'm stumped, and I really want to know what's happened there. I'm really confused. As we now see SMH and Kudos now crossing the line. Let's go to the tyres. SMH on those hard compound tyres managing to maintain a proper gap. But as Queen's Up now fights into the first corner, going round the inside, keeping leaving enough space between the two drivers, he manages to come out on top and now lead the race, coming out into the second, or towards the second sector now, going through the 6-gear corners. I know it's not called the 6-gear corners, but it is easier for me to say 6-gear corners than 7, 8, 9, and 10. What has happened? I need to go back and see now. I think Shanae might have had damage from that incident, because he seems to be struggling quite a lot to be able to get through a lot of these corners. It'll be interesting. You say it's on purpose, Trexie. You say it's on purpose, but why would someone throw away such an easy victory? Now as we go into the second DRS straight, now DRS will be enabled, so Kudos will have the crucial amount of extra speed that he will need to make the move. He does have the tyre advantage for the next few laps before we reach the halfway point of those mediums falling off. Now into the second chicane, Kudos is still 0.3 seconds behind. He'll have DRS. He will have ERS, assuming he hasn't depleted it all, but I would assume he has. Got it still in the tank. He is there closing. We can see him closing that gap. He looks down for the inside move. Unfortunately, is not close enough to make a move just yet. SMH now, unfortunately, coming out of the corner with a massive tank slapper, finds himself losing a position now to Kudos, and results all over his gearbox now, going down the straight. Zolt will not have DRS, which will not be useful at all. SMH having the DRS and be able to defend very well. Shanae putting in the fastest lap, so clearly, okay, maybe you might be right. Shanae clearly has got the pace, but he just, I don't know what he was doing there, and that will have to be reviewed by the stewards after the race now. Shanae promoting himself up into 5th place. Definitely something to review after the race if he was purposely sandbagging, because that is unfortunately against the rules. There's to some extent a level of sandbagging. We'll have to review that afterwards. Zolt's now 0.3 seconds behind SMH, and Kudos 0.7 seconds behind Queen's Up. Queen's Up leading the race for half a lap now, going towards a lap now because he overtook SMH for the lead of the race. I think it was around the end of Sector 2 now. So Zolt will have DRS after this chicane. It's about I want to say 200, 250 meters as a DRS straight, but don't quote me for it. DRS wide open. He is going to close that gap. Let's go on board with him. He does have ERS, but unfortunately he's not close enough, but he's managed to close that gap for the second chicane. He will have a second helping of DRS now towards the final hairpin on this track. He is close enough. He is half a tenth, 4 tenths, 3.5 tenths. He is closing that gap down, but unfortunately I do not think he is close enough to just make that move yet. Kudos as well ahead, going now through the final DRS straight down the pit straight. He has got the speed, he's got the position now. Kudos up into first place well before the braking zone, and now into the first corner. Kudos leads the race. Shanae putting in a new fastest lap. Shanae clearly did not have an issue there. Trexie, you were right. That is... So now, Kudos, we've had a change in leadership of this race. 4 different people have led this race now. We've had Shanae, we've had Queens Up, we've had Kudos, and we've had SMH. So we will have to see what happens now. 5 laps into the race, only 1/5 in the way. And now the medium compound tyres are going to be reaching their halfway mark. It will be around 10 laps by the time the mediums will start to drop off, and about 15 laps before those hards are horrible to drive on. So we'll have to see what strategy people decide to go with. Now Queen's Up still right on the gearbox of the Ferrari, going through the first chicane, still maintaining that 2 tenths, and now he is closing that gap. He will have DRS on the second straight. Thank you, EA, for giving me the helicopter cam. He is closing that gap, but unfortunately he's not closing it quick enough before the second chicane. He backs out of the fight, but maintains that gap close enough to potentially fight into the hairpin. We have had fights like this before in Tier 2, but can we have a fight like this where they are going to be Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen back-to-back fighting with DRS after DRS? Now, Kudos getting a very good line into the corner. Unfortunately, Queens Up could not quite look down the inside for a move. And now Queens Up is looking for a move. He managed to get a good exit. He's got the DRS for an advantage down the main straight now. And into the first corner, he does find himself to be a whole car length ahead into the braking zone. Now Queens Up is back into the race lead. Kudos down into second place. Shanae setting the new fastest lap, 2.8 seconds behind Zoltz. Still got a lot of work to go on those hard compound tyres now. Going into the chicane again, Kudos, the first full victim to the track limits. Very unfortunate to see. He is fighting really well for pole position, or for first place, sorry. And this will be a huge loss in the long run for his race. Of course, 3-second penalties unfortunately cannot be served in this race. Only 5 and 10-second penalties can be served. So the 3 seconds that he accumulates and will build up over the number of penalties that he may have. As unfortunately, I think Zoltz has come out of those corners there and has found himself spinning. Shanae now has himself promoted up into 4th place, 3.5 seconds behind. 3-second penalties will only continue to accumulate and increase. You will not serve them till the end of the race. 5-second time penalties are usually for corner cutting, severe collisions, or speeding in the pit lane, and they can be served in a pit stop, but only served in your next pit stop. So speeding in the pit lane will not be served immediately, as Zoltz then gets passed up by Landshark. I presume those overheating tyres are not doing him any favours, and unfortunately now the 2 Alpha Tauris are again at the back of the grid. Zoltz 9 seconds behind. He will have overheating tyres. Though he may be towards the back of the grid, there is still, we've seen drivers make comebacks from further back on the grid, and it is very much possible. Now, as we go down the main straight again, Kudos will have DRS, but unfortunately he is not close enough to, he will continue to close that gap, but unfortunately not close enough to make the move happen just yet. They are on the same tyre strategies, as we can assume, you know, they'll pit around the same time. But we'll have to see, you know, what they'll have in store for us.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think, especially because it's Saudi Arabia, the track limits are really, really tight, and you can get those penalties like Kudos. So it's going to be key to get, as least as you can get, especially those warnings. And
Landshark now,
right now,
sorry to interrupt you, is
yeah.
the second person to fall victim to those 3-second time penalties, as you mentioned them.
Yeah, it really is. It's a very difficult track, especially it's such a tight squeeze with many of the corners, and then the track limit. There we go as well. Amsold also getting a 3 seconds, so it's really hard to keep it within the track limits. But if you can do that, you're on a very, very good path for a great result here. just like Queens Up and Shanae are doing right now as well as SMH. So Kudos needs to try and maybe build a gap or do something that can allow him to get in front.
Indeed now, as it looked as though... Yeah, I think Queens have had a horrible exit out of that hairpin now. Kudos going down the... oh, sorry, down the inside, around the outside now. Well before, more than 150 meters before the braking zone. He's recovered. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember the word I'm looking for, but he gains back lead of the race again. Oh. As Shanae finds himself up to third place now. SMH half a second behind. Shanae really just regained. Thank you, Pulse. He's regained the lead of the race. That's the word I was looking for. Queen's up again. This is going to be a battle that will continue until they pull the trigger for the pits, because those tyres will equally start to die and fall off a cliff together.
Yeah, that is true. But also we need to keep in mind that Shanae is on those hard. So he's going
As
to be
Kudos has spun!
faster.
Kudos has spun, coming out of
Wow.
one of the first chicane of the second sector. Now, unfortunately, finds himself down into fourth place. Shanae up into second place. I think Kudos. Unfortunately, there was no collision between the two, but unfortunately, he did have just a snap of what I would assume was oversteer coming out those corners, because they are very quick corners, and it is very easy to have oversteer around the circuit. It's more oversteer than understeer in this for this circuit, from what I've been told. So unfortunately, Kudos, after a very thrilling fight for the top step of this for the lead of this race. I'm struggling today, I'm really sorry. For the lead of this race, Kudos now unfortunately finds himself down into fourth place, but he has not fallen too far. He does still have a chance. There is the whole pit strategies. We'll have to see what people come up with. Perhaps Kudos could be one of those brave and one of those bold drivers to go for a two-stop, go for medium, soft, for example, is one option that is available. But we will have to see now, as it's a matter of attrition. Which driver will be able to keep the cleanest line and avoid as many penalties as possible, pardon me. So it's practically a waiting game at this point, unfortunately. But there are a few things to note at this point, because we only have two hard compound drivers on the grid. And those two find themselves in second and third, both of them as well out of the DRS window. Shanae is not yet improving his time. He's remained at 4 seconds for the duration of this lap so far, and the same with SMH. Yet Kudos, with that spin, has crucially cut that time down. He's gone from 3.5 seconds to 3.3 seconds. So, although it is down to the strategies, Kudos seems to still have the pace with those mediums. Are we going to have him be able to turn it around and potentially, although he may have the 3-second time penalty, still be in contention for a podium at the very least here under the lights?
Yeah, I think that is well within the range. I think he's well on here to get a top 3 finish. It was really just a case of, it's the pressure that happened. We racing very close to Queens Up, and it's like I said, Saudi Arabia, very difficult track to nail. And when you get at that pressure and stuff,
Queen's Up now in the lead of the race. Sorry to cut you off there. Queen's Up now has got a 3-second time penalty. So now Queen's Up has really put his chances of potentially winning this race, or even getting a podium in this race, at a huge risk.
That is 100% true, and like I said, the pressure is getting to them, especially Queens Up now, who knows that now he has that 3 second, and Shanae has those hard compound tires, which are going to be faster very soon, and already you can see Shanae is cutting down that lead ever so slightly, so he knows what he needs to do now, and it's key that he doesn't lose a lot of time, and Shanae has been keeping it quite well, to be honest, to not get any penalties, so we'll see what happens.
Indeed we will. Now Shanae 3.5 seconds back from Queen's Up, 3.3 seconds back from Queen's Up, whilst SMH has unfortunately increased that time gap and is now 4 seconds behind. Kudos now 2.8 seconds behind. Thank you for that squid, Nadim. Or an octopus, sorry,
Yeah, no
not squid.
problem. Yeah, just put a
Same
frogman
animal.
octopus.
Queen's up. There we go. Queen's up pulls the trigger. He's had enough of those medium combat tires. Onto those hards. He will go 15 laps on those hard combat tires. Coming out just behind Kudos. I suspect he'll be around 10 seconds, potentially. 5 to 10 seconds behind the Red Bull. Or maybe even less than that. I don't know. We'll see. How's my guess? We're at 7.5 at the moment. Alright, I was wrong. He's about 7.5 seconds behind. But that was a good stop. I think potentially he's going to be looking to go for the undercut, as I think Landshark has another spinner during this race. Very unfortunate to see Landshark have that spin. He's got the 10-lap old mediums. They are going to be struggling for grip. And he does find himself in 6th. Still good points for Williams. So hopefully he does stick it through and stay throughout this race. Now Queen's up. He's gone for that pit stop and he's had enough of those mediums. He will definitely have the position on Kudos, but the question is, SMH and Sinead, the two drivers who started on the hard compound tyres, will not be pitting for at least another 4 to about 5 or 6 laps at most. So it will be around lap 18 at the latest that we'll see them pitting. So how much time can Queens Up gain? He's got the pit stop, he's fired those tyres up for certain, like he is pushing the limits now already. Now at 8 seconds, he's lost time. Obviously, you have to spend about the first sector after pitting to grab yourself those fresh tyres and fire them up, warm them up. They will be given to you around like 70 degrees or something like that. As there goes, Kudos had enough of those tyres. Queens Up will be promoted up into 3rd place. And Kudos onto those hard compound tyres, going for 13 laps. Or 14 laps, sorry, on those hards. So now it's a matter of strategy. Who is going to be able to fire up those tyres really well and get the laps in now before the drivers ahead consider it? Now, the average pit stop is about 20 seconds here at Jeddah. So at the moment, SMH and Sinead will lose the position to Queens Up by around, what is that, around 10 and 4 seconds respectively. As now Landshark has also gone in the pits, had enough of those tyres, understandably so. He's had a few spins, very unfortunate to see, onto those hard compound tyres. They will now last him, hopefully, to the end of this race. I'm curious. Now, he is closing that gap now. Queen's Up now 9.5 seconds behind SMH, and he is closing that slowly but surely. So will he be able to close it quick enough to have enough of an advantage, time advantage, ahead of Sinead, to then help avoid Sinead having a huge advantage on those softer compounds, on the medium compound compared to his hards? Because as we've seen before, those mediums definitely give you a huge advantage. They do also drop off quite quickly. So the key thing to help Queens Up try and secure this victory will be if he continues to extend that lead to Sinead, and when Sinead decides to have enough of those hards and get onto those mediums, if he has enough of a time gap, by the time Sinead catches up to Queens Up, his mediums are dead. His mediums have a lack of grip to be able to fight anymore and try and take the position, and that is going to be Queens Up only possibility I can see for him to secure a victory here under the lights, as Aiden now is also another driver to fall victim. There are now 5 drivers to fall victim to the track limits, and only 3 drivers still yet to pit, the top 2, and Zolt's down in 5th place. Go on, team.
I think this is a very interesting situation we have here because Queen's has went early and this gives him a big opportunity here to close down the time. But what I have here that is quite worrying for me for in Quizup's position is he's got that 3 seconds and Shanae is going to have that tire advantage and he has 2 options here. He can either go on the medium or he can go on the soft and go late. And we've seen those soft can do you wonders. But Queensup, if he really wants to win here, he needs to gain time here to SMH and gain as much time as possible because once Sinead pits, it's inevitable that he's going to be faster than him. So it's quite key here for Queensup to not make mistakes, not get any more penalties, and gain that time because by the end of the race, you're going to be like a sitting duck and you're going to be losing time constantly. But again, it's going to be interesting to see whether Shanae is going to go for the medium, or he's going to go late and go for the soft.
Indeed. I think Shanae... Oh, as we see a very huge snap of oversteer by Queens Up, fortunately keeping his car out of the barrier. But I think, yeah, it is a good thing to mention, you know, the Shanae has the pace, and I think if any driver is going to be daring enough to try and do a one-stop to softs, it will be him. He just needs to go around 6 more laps on those hard compound tyres before he opts to pit on them, as I think Aiden, unfortunately, has come out of one of the chicanes in the first sector. I say one of because there are like several chicanes, several curvy corners are incredibly annoying to try and work out which is which. Fortunately, he has come out of that backwards on track. But as we go on with Shanae now going towards the hairpin, it is now a matter of when will he decide to pit, and when he pits, what is he going to go for? As we have Aiden coming out of the pits on those soft compound tyres.
I mean, for Queens Up, that little moment wasn't ideal because you can see that he's under a lot of pressure. He knows that it's key for him to gain this time compared to Shanae. And I think Shanae right now doesn't need to worry necessarily, as we do have SMH who does pit for new tires. He doesn't necessarily have to pit. It's whether then he wants to play this safe or go for a little bit of a other option with those softs. So he has two options. Both of them
Here
could
comes
work
Kudos
out
down the
or not.
line. Fortunately, SMH manages to get the pit stop in as quickly as he could, gets out of his pit box in time, and keep third place. He doesn't lose out to Kudos behind him. And of course, Kudos on those older tyres as Zoltz also pits for the softs. He's not going to be able to have that tyre advantage to grab the DRS and keep up with the front runners.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate. But what I'm peeling my eyes for is to see whether Shanae is going to pit or not. Because this is it. He's either gonna pit now or he's not gonna pit until the very late stages for the soft. So this is the point where you go, it's make it or break. Is it gonna be the mediums or the soft?
Indeed. But let's go on board with him now. As he goes into the pits, he's definitely going to go for those mediums now. There is no chance he's going to go for those soft compound tyres with 10 laps to go. Yep, there are those mediums. Yellow walled tyres are on and now out of the pits. He will find himself demoted by one position to Queens Up, but as you mentioned, he is going to have a huge tyre advantage, and he already has shown he has the pace. And he does come out almost side by side with the Red Bull. Fortunately, neither into the wall.
But now the gap is really, really close, and this hasn't worked out quite for Queensa because even though he has the lead, he still has that 3-second time penalty which he got on the earlier stages, and now he's gonna be not only feeling the pressure, but he's gonna have to fend off a hungry Shanae on those mediums compared to his 5-apple hards, which isn't really an easy task to do, so he really needs to pull something amazing out of his arsenal if he wants to win this one.
Indeed, and something to mention as well, that I said that Kudos will not get a DRS, but I think Kudos managed to fire up those tyres and push them really well, that unfortunately SMH did not manage to do that, and now Kudos has DRS. Kudos not only has DRS, but he's also within half a second, less than half a second, to the Alfa Romeo driver ahead of him. Now into the last chicane, he finds himself going slightly wide into the corner, but still maintains a pretty good exit. Finds himself still 0.7 seconds behind, DRS wide open. He will have a second helping of DRS down towards the main straight, and continues to close that gap, now half a second behind. As Queen's Up as well, fighting Shanae. Shanae tries to go for a move. Queen's Up going around the outside, maintaining the lead of the race. Shanae, unfortunately, could not manage to have the pace to take the lead of the race back from Queen's Up. Kudos. Back to Kudos. Going through the first sector, we got this quick, sharp left-hander, essentially cutting the corner. Queen's Up with another 3-second time penalty with 6 seconds now. That will be the win from this race. Gone from his grip unless, only unless, Shanae has some incredible misfortune during this race, which obviously we do not hope to see our drivers have, but as a commentator definitely would make the race certainly extremely spicy and extremely interesting for us to watch. Now Shanae has a half a second gap, and unfortunately Kudos is out of that 1 second, will no longer have DRS, though he does find himself just within that grasp. Again, he was under the second gap after the DRS detection zone, so unfortunately, as SMH will slowly start to pull away, he will have that mass tyre advantage. Kudos will not be able to maintain it. Obviously, the tyre advantage and the lack of grip. Now, Shanae, 0.3 seconds behind. DRS would be open, but he's not opening it. He was instead just opening it and closing it together. Okay. I mean, I guess with the penalties, there is no need for Shanae to risk it, make a move around the outside, but alternatively, you can try and go for the fastest lap, and sticking behind the driver will certainly not help with your time to the driver behind, nor to I can't remember what's going on that train of thought. My apologies.
Oh, darkness.
It won't help him with his driver time, nor will it help with his time to the driver behind. Of course, he may have 9.5 or 10 seconds to SMH behind him, but if he continues to stay behind Queen's Up and not make the overtake, he will lose time to the driver behind. Yes, he may not have penalties, and again, he's just opening and closing his DRS and just playing with it instead of driving. I guess in a way, I can understand if you are racing at a caliber like Shanae, where you are incredibly quick, then yes, I can understand the want as he goes down the inside for a move on Queen's Up into the final hairpin now. Has the inside line, unfortunately will not have the DRS going down this pit straight again. Going to the line. In fact, neither of them has DRS. That is extremely odd. Shanae looking to the outside for a move. Queen's Up managing to keep his car ahead, just ahead into the first 2 corners, 3 corners, now into 4th, and now throwing it towards the 5th. I guess I disapprove with his tactics. Yes, he may be a different caliber and maybe a faster driver, but I disagree with his decision to stay behind, as it can also cause pressure to the driver ahead, unrequired or unwanted pressure.
That is true. I do agree with you on that, but it really all depends. I mean, I think Queen's Up knows himself with that 6 seconds that his chances are slim. So he's still also, I think, a bit more relaxed now, knowing that he has at least a guaranteed podium. Well, it's still not the end of the race, but he has it for now. So yeah, I think also it's very good to mention that Shanae is the only person that doesn't have a penalty in this race. Everybody else has got a penalty except Shanae, so he's done wonderfully to not get any penalties. You can see now he overtakes him, and Queens Up is gonna try and maybe get the move done again. Although by the looks of it, he's too far on this one, and I think Shanae has now cemented his place in P1, and doesn't look like Queens Up is going to have any more chances to get it back. So yeah, from this point on, I think Shanae is gonna drive away and do his own thing now, and Queens Up can just focus on his driving. So yeah, that's very
Was Shanae
unfortunate.
playing with his boot?
Yes.
Yeah, basically, it looks like it because he really just has a tire advantage, and there's nothing you can do really. And you
And
can
he
see it on the
refused to
time
open
feed.
his DRS properly. He would open it and close it repetitively.
Mm.
Or repeatedly,
But yeah,
rather.
that is. Yeah, you can see it on the times
As
as well. He's
unfortunately Aiden has left the session. Hopefully that is just a simple disconnection problem. Something that can be resolved very quickly and very easily.
But you can also see it on the times as well. Like Shanae has definitely wasn't driving at his fullest because you can see that he's improving by 6, 7 tenths and he's hitting the fastest lap. Well, almost 1 second. So yeah, definitely
Oh, Aiden blue
not.
screen.
Oh no, not again.
Hmm. Aiden has
That is very
unfortunately
unfortunate.
crashed.
But even though EA needs to fix their servers because they do get really laggy and
There's
sometimes
still
they
a
can
lot of game
disconnect
bugs. You
people.
can open your settings and you'll be stuck
Yeah.
in your settings. Like,
Oh yeah,
if they're
that's happened to
thinking of
me as
making a
well.
2023, they need to stop thinking and start fixing this one instead.
Go on and do that then.
But
I want to get more money.
Oh, I
but
know.
as
It's
well,
just kind of
but as,
silly.
but as well as that, right? On the start when cross-platform came, like the first few days or the first week was like terrible. You couldn't connect, and it will kick people out. So it's definitely issues with online sessions that
Sorry to
EA
cut you
needs
off there,
to.
though, but as we come in towards the first hairpin of the track, Kudos is almost pushing the Alfa Romeo ahead of him. Kudos is now, he has those old hards, but clearly he's managed to get to grips with them really well, and now is within 3/10 of the Alfa Romeo ahead of him. Fortunately, going wide into that first chicane, but you will have a huge helping of DRS now down this main straight. Sorry, down this second curvy straight. It's not even a straight, just down this bend. He is losing time in the straight, but I think in the corners, potentially, he has the better grip somehow. Now, half a second down, he will have DRS wide open now, coming towards the final hairpin of this track. As Shanae crossed the line to start the 22nd lap. Unfortunately, Kudos is not close enough, clearly has not got the pace just yet to make the position and take third place. But he's definitely going to stay in this fight for the duration of this race, for the rest of this race, with only 3 laps remaining.
I mean, it looks like Kudos has found that pace on those hards. He's gone into
As
a bit of a
Queens Up has
groove
gone
now. Oh
extremely
my god!
wide. Queens Up has lost so much time to Shanae ahead of him.
I think he made a mistake. He
I
has
think
to have made a
he
mistake.
may have had a mistake as well, yes. So now SMH just 8 seconds behind Queens Up, but Queens Up now 7.5 seconds behind Shanae. Shanae comfortably in the lead now. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Shanae decided to pit for softs and then try and win the race off of that, because off of penalties alone, Shanae on soft compound tyres would surely have the pace to be able to climb back up to first.
I mean, I think it's too late now. I don't think he will have enough laps to catch up to Queens Up because even though it's 8 seconds, it's still a long. I mean, he would really need to be rapid. He would need to like take
Yeah.
Queens Up only
2 seconds.
Queens Up has 9 seconds of penalties though.
Oh.
No, 6 seconds.
Yeah, 6 seconds. So that's still not that a lot, you know. So it would be extremely risky, and I don't think he's gonna take that risk. I mean, he
I don't
really
think there's an
shouldn't.
outlap as well, so.
Yeah, that's true. So I think it's a bit too late now, and I mean, I don't think he knows that he doesn't need to get the fastest lap necessarily because
He's already
he's
got it.
already got the championship. Well, he's got it. No, I don't think so. I think Empel got it.
Oh, he's got it.
No, he took it back.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So he really knows
He
that.
took it back by 5/10 of a second on the medium compound tyres. Zolt's somehow still going on those softs. Those softs are absolutely crying at this point. They have to be.
Yeah, the Sox seem to get around that lap 7, 8, and they are completely done. They just get no pace. But what's interesting is though Kudos has really done well with his hard tires. He's found the pace back, and now he's pressuring SMH into a mistake and looking to get through him. And I think he gets when he gets a bit too close in the corners. I think the dirty air does cost him a bit of time, as we've seen him go wide a few times. But I think he's still in a prime position to take the
As Sinead
overtake here.
pits.
Oh wow!
Sinead has gone for those soft compound tyres on the last lap just to prove a point.
But is he gonna have enough time? Is he gonna be close? I'm not
He
sure.
will have a lap and a half.
But he's gonna
Because it's going to take him
battle.
half a lap to fire up those tyres. Queen's up currently in the lead of this race with 6-second time penalty. He will still find himself winning this race. Sinead finds himself in the midst of the battle between SMH and Kudos. He has a huge tyre advantage now for the last 2 laps of this race. He's not going to be able to get around the Alfa Romeo driver just yet. He's got to wait for that straight before the tyre advantage is going to really kick in and he can make the move done. He is now all over that gearbox, looking to the inside, and I have no doubt he is going to make a move now into this hairpin now. Round the inside, he's got so much more grip, he can afford to go down the inside. Kudos trying to capitalize on that maneuver as well. Kudos now side by side with the Alfa Romeo driver going towards into the next chicane, but unfortunately Kudos can't just yet make maneuver. He is far enough behind though. I think he potentially... Does he have DRS down this straight? He does have DRS now. Kudos around the outside, capitalizing on Sinead getting in the middle of that battle. Kudos now into the next chicane, finds himself ahead of the Alfa Romeo driver, and still going. Unfortunately, though, he's not within a second to Sinead ahead of him, and will not be able to grab that DRS. No, in fact, I'm wrong there. He does have DRS. Kudos has the DRS and is able to defend by the Alfa Romeo behind him. And Sinead, on the soft compound tyres, unfortunately now is within the 6-second time gap and will win this race now. He has got no penalties. Queen's up with another 3-second time penalty. That's 9 seconds now. Will find himself to moat it down as Sinead goes into the runoff area. Sinead has thrown away the race victory, as I think he might have had a huge lockup going into the first corner now. Queen's Up needs 9 seconds gap behind him. SMH, I think, if I remember correctly, has also 3-second time penalty. No. Yes, he does. Sorry, SMH does have a 3-second time penalty, and Kudos has 6 now with half a lap to go. Queen's Up is, although leading the race... In fact, Kudos is leading the race. Kudos, I think, is on track to win this race.
But how? Because he has 6 seconds. I think it's SMH.
Queen's Up has 9. SMH with those 3 seconds is at 10 seconds. And Kudos is at 6 seconds. SMH has got enough of a time gap behind him and ahead of him and his penalties to cushion Queen's Up.
Sinead, he's gaining so much time. Sinead might
But
get it,
Sinead
though.
has half, not even, he has 1 sector to overtake 2 drivers to be in contention for winning the race. Now coming around the final corner, coming towards the line, Queen's Up is currently, as Kudos also takes the position, Kudos takes the position round the outside on the Alfa Romeo driver going side by side out of the corner. Queen's Up crosses the line, winning the race with 9 seconds of penalties. Next across the line, Kudos with 6 seconds. Just behind him, SMH, Sinead across the line. Sinead does win the race.
Yeah, he does.
By 35 thousandths of a second.
Wow.
Queen's
That
Up had the win so close in their grasp, in their hands, but unfortunately Sinead managed to close that gap just quick enough and steal the win of this race. Queen's Up still with a stellar drive taking 2nd place. Unfortunately, Kudos with those 6 seconds does find himself demoted to 4th place. Still a stellar drive for the Ferrari driver and the Alfa Romeo up into 3rd. Next we have to cross the line soon will be Zoltz in 5th place with 3 seconds of time penalties.
Wow.
Landshark in 6th place, and very unfortunate to see Aiden having another blue screen, which does mean that he has gone from this race and unfortunately will be disqualified for the race, I believe, because the AI had been driving for, I think it was the last 7 laps of the race. We'll have to double check with the rule book and the stewards.
That is a
But that
crazy ending
was
for a race.
crazy ending. I don't know what to say.
You couldn't believe it. I think that's the word. You can't
Indeed,
find any
I
words for
can't
that kind
believe
of
it.
finish. I think at the end, Shanae, I can't believe that. He made a mistake, he locked up, and he still won. I mean, the pace that man had is insane.
I mean, the
And
softs definitely
the,
helped a huge amount. And
yeah,
I have to
but
say, I honestly, I wish Queens Up could be the person on the top set of the podium. He definitely had a stellar drive today, starting from third and now finds himself up into second place. You know, he would have won the race, and a part of me hopes that Shanae had flat spotted his tyres a bit more. And, you know, flat spots actually accounted for something in this game, because as far as I'm aware, they don't really account for too much.
yeah, but the finish as well, like only 35 thousandths of a second, the gap between the top two. It's really, it was so close. If Shanae made some error or something went wide, lost a bit of time, it would have been different. So a
And to
crazy
note,
finish.
if we look at Zolt's pitted for the soft compound tyres on the 15th lap. He went 10 laps on those soft compound tyres to finish in 5th. Those tyres must have been screaming.
Most definitely, I think at the end he had probably really high tire wear. So
Yeah.
it was a great race. I have to say, I wasn't expecting that finish, but it was epic, and I think the battles were quite good at the end there with the Kudos and SMH, and obviously Queens of Shanae having their own little battles. So yeah, I think overall great weekend in Jeddah here, a lot of fun races. Yeah, I just can't wait for the season finale if this is what we have just the race before.
Indeed, and we do have one person to interview today. We've got ourselves the race winner by the narrowest of seconds of timings. Shanae managed to grab the race win. Shanae, that was I don't know what that was. I mean, you went for an incredibly risky move to go for the softs at the end of the race, but still managed by 35 hundredths of a second come back and win the race. How was that race for you?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like, I heard you on the stream talking about pitting for soft tires at the end, so I thought, yeah, I'm gonna give it a go. You know?
I mean, of course, you know you set
uh,
the fastest lap, or
I didn't.
you were going to, but then you were. What happened in the first corner there?
Uh, I was actually looking at the other monitor at your stream, and I forgot to brake. You know.
A classic mistake, yes, indeed. Whilst we do advise our drivers to try and maintain their eyes on the road just like you would in real life.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
you know, you've already secured yourself the championship. You just continue to extend that lead. And of course, trying to fight for the Constructors Championship as well for Alpine. Are you looking forward to Suzuka next week? Do you think that's going to be another race win in the bag for you?
I don't know. I'm gonna do at least that to win the constructors, but I'm gonna try. You know.
That's the best we can you as a driver can offer. You try your best, and your best will succeed. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for that very exciting finish to the race and pitting for the softs and then forgetting to look at the road. But we look forward to seeing what you have in store for us at Suzuka next week.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks.
And that will be the end of the stream for tonight. That's the end of F121, F122 Tier 1. That was interesting to say the least, I think, to describe that race. Best describe that race.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting overall, I think. As a weekend, especially Jeddah typical track, easy to make mistakes, easy to make those get those warnings, those penalties. So I think the drivers definitely dealt really well. I think there weren't a lot of crashes between the drivers. Reasonably kept it clean, and yeah, just can't wait for next week and to see what happens in Japan.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Joe and Nadeem, for joining me for the race tonight. I will see you guys hopefully next week for the last race of the season as we finish season 3 at Suzuka, and then we will have, I believe, a 1 week break before we get back into the swing of things with season 4. So we will see you guys then. Thank you for joining, and ciao.